Welcome back to Veronica Live, and we are here with a show regular. It's been a little while since he's joined me, but I know he has lots to share. Representative Griff Griffitts, he's been fighting the fight in Tallahassee. Welcome back, Representative Griffitts.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so the session just wrapped, and I wanted to talk to you about all this sausage making because, I went to Tallahassee twice in January, and I'm still recovering from it.
Right?
It was horrible. So I don't know if I want to go back.
Process. It's politics is a blood sport, and I don't think people recognize it. It really is. There's I guess our forefathers knew it best that thank goodness we're only there for 60 days because you sure don't want a bunch of us up there for a long period of time because you could sure make up a bunch of dumb rules and, place some burdens on the state. So it's good we're only there for 60 days and then they send us home. But yeah, the sausage making is very ugly.
Oh, it was horrible.
The hours and time, it's very time consuming. It's really important to build relationships while you're there. If you think that you're the firebrand that's going to go up there and bang on the desk and change everything, you are sadly mistaken. It is just not that way. They want people who, conduct themselves. There's pride in the institution of the House for sure. And the senior members want to make sure that that institution remains in some sort of historical fashion. And it's been that way a long time, and it's really hard to figure it out. It is very hard to get stuff across the finish line, really, really hard. And even when you do get it across the finish line, sometimes you might be concerned with the finished product because you're not sure how it actually turned out because of so many amendments in the process. The committee stops, and so that you can't fall in love with a bill. They tell you that early on. If you get up there and there's something going through and you don't like it, you can surely withdraw it. You can let it die. You can do all those number of things as a sponsor to make sure your name's not attached to some piece of crappy legislation, really.
Well, Griff, I'm just curious, is it where you have one person that can stop a bill? Is that, is that good? A good thing?
I mean, on the Senate side, it really can account to that. There is, and there is power and leadership in ways that are really, people don't have any idea how much power is swayed in certain areas. It kind of runs downhill, and if leadership chooses one path or the other, or decides that this is not a priority for their leadership, then they can sure make it difficult. We saw in the last session where there was a number of bills that the House heard that the Senate had no sponsors. The president had clearly indicated that there was not going to be any hearings or committees on these bills. Yet the House, we went through the motions. We did, we were hoping maybe some way along the line they can pick it up and run with it, but none of that ever happened. And so there's a constant struggle, I think, at times with a lot of the more conservative bills. This was session number 2. Session number 1, we did a lot of the, gun control, abortions, pronouns, all those things that were probably a little more high topic and probably for a little more critical for people. And so when this session came around, I think you had a speaker. We had a governor who wasn't engaged, obviously. He was off running for president. We had a speaker who was on his way out, a president of the Senate who is on her way out there in their last years. And so their probably priorities are changing in how they want to leave, part of their legacy. And so that probably dictates in how they're going to run their show as well. But yeah, it's very hard. If you have people that are blocking it, it can make it difficult. A great example is in Pinellas County, their transit authority. We run a lot of local bills up there. Local bills are brought to us, at the delegation level. So if Bay County wanted a local bill or Panama City Beach or something, and they came to the delegation being me and Jay Trumbull, which the greatest thing ever is to have a delegation meeting, which is just you and your friend and your Senate counterpart. These delegate meetings in South Florida, they're 12, 15 members.
Yep.
Both parties, everybody's lined up, everybody's fighting over things. And Pinellas County wanted a local bill which separated their transit authority for a litany of reasons, and it was all very logical and made plenty of sense. Went all the way through the House committee. Every House committee it went through, no problem. Voted, I think, unanimous on every House bill. The Senate kills it because the one Senate member, Democratic Senate member from down there that didn't like it, on their delegation rules, it basically says if one senator doesn't like it, they can kill the bill.
Oh,
so
gosh.
it never even got heard on the Senate side. So there are rules in place. Thankfully, our rules don't say that. But there are rules in place that can make things super challenging. Even if you think you got it across the finish line, just when you think you might have it figured out, you don't.
Well, I guess what I learned from Griff was I didn't realize when it came to a bill, you really did need a senator and you had to have a representative to push that forward. So I thought you could just run with it on your own. And I was surprised by that.
If you, for instance, let's just say gun control, for example, if a freshman walks in and says, I'm going to run the permitless carry last year, they're never going to hand that to a freshman legislator. They're going to hand that to a guy that's senior level, who's been through the battles of committees, knows how the questions are going to be, knows how to go out and kind of work the bill as well, which essentially means, lobby the bill. You go talk to when you're running a bill, you go talk to every member on every committee about your bill. You're lobbying your bill yourself to try to make sure that when you get it to the committee hearing, there's no questions. It just sails through. And because that's really the hard part. Once it makes it to the House floor, at that point, it's going to pass. In most cases, it's going to pass. And it's really a lot of work. And if you don't have those relationships built, they're not going to talk to you about your bill. It doesn't matter what idea it is. And if leadership doesn't bless it, it doesn't matter. It's not going anywhere. You have to have those relationships.
Is that good though? I mean, and I take that in the context that we've had some bad legislation passed because of the way it works. And I'll go back to the septic tank bill, which you may recall from several years ago. Yeah. And that was basically a South Florida bill. And I talked to the Senate president about that and was told this was done as a favor to a retiring senator. That was his pet bill for all these years. It's never been passed. Yeah. And they passed it for him.
Oh, my gosh.
Sure. Listen, what I will tell you is that we live in the greatest part of the state, and we are so blessed to be in the Panhandle because all the weird, dumb rules that we create at the state level usually come out of South Florida. And it's because of the just general population, I think, is so dense, and there's just some bad actors. And those bad actors make the state, as my good friend Representative General Maney from Okaloosa County, he said sometimes the state has to use an 800-mile long screwdriver to tighten the screws because and I was like, what a great example and an analogy to recognize that we have to do that sometimes, and we all live under this huge screwdriver that sometimes a really small segment of people create, but the state steps in and preempts and slaps and has the ability to do it. And I remember Speaker Bentz telling me one of his greatest accomplishments was passing less laws than he did the year before. And I think limited government is a testament to that. And I feel like sometimes we get up there and we try to create sometimes some forms of bigger government. And it's only big government if it's not your government, right? And it's laughable to me. Sometimes I'm like, we're supposed to be the freest, most conservative state in the union. And here we are. Sometimes we're very reactionary. The state's real reactionary. We'll jump off into something real quick. and then a year or so later, we got to go back and revisit it because we were too quick to judge or something. But that's, that's the beauty of this Florida state legislature. That's why I guess there's, 160 of us up there making the rules.
So Griff,
all
I wanted
different
to.
Types.
Well, I'm still traumatized by trying to go up and down an elevator because that was literally impossible in the Capitol building.
You just about have to have an engineering degree to work those elevators.
It was horrific. But what are some of the wins that you think came out of this legislative session that you're so proud of?
Well, I think we did a lot of cool things, stuff that I think we would find relevant here locally. The squatters bill, we were way ahead of the national. Yeah, we were way ahead of the national media on that. We were working on that for actually the last two sessions, but finally got it signed by the governor this year, and that's a great thing. I worked on expanding the footprint of Space Florida to include Tyndall and Homestead. We are obviously the base of the future, right? And so we have lots of untouched land, and Space Florida's expansion. It's amazing how much goes on at the Cape. I don't think people recognize how much commercial space is actually in the footprint of Florida. They're doing launches about every 10 or 12 days down there. So they wanted to incorporate Tyndall, and that Tyndall was very receptive. And so that was fun. That was a really fun one to run. And then the governor signed a huge transportation bill, which is going to streamline and move projects that were 20 and 30 years down the road to 10-year plans or 5-year plans, which will benefit our area greatly. And then, of course, the big one was probably the HB3, which is the social media bill, which the, wins or losses, that one, I think, for the speaker was probably his greatest priority with his young children. I think he's trying to protect children essentially from the ills of social media. It's not the content, it's not those things, it's the addictive features that those platforms produce for children. And I think that was the push to get that signed. And when the HB1 came out and it was a little concerns for constitutionality, that was where the negotiations started, and HB3 was produced, and that's kind of what passed both the House and the Senate. The governor signed it, and so now it will soon take effect. I'm sure challenged in the courts at some level, but we will see. We will see the results of that, I think, soon.
It's amazing on that because people don't understand these companies like Facebook and Instagram, and they actually employ psychologists that look at this stuff and say, how do we keep people pushing the button, basically? It's
no, exactly right. It's really scary. It's akin to a slot machine. When you're pushing the button to just hit that slot machine number over and over again to reset it. It's the same thing with your phone. The features that releases these dopamine type, releases in your brain. And for children, it's much worse. The statistics that go with bullying, that go with exploitation of children, sexual trafficking in social media is through the roof. It's unbelievable where it starts, and it starts in social media. And the Speaker of the House has used a great example over and over again, because he is our age, and he said, when I was growing up and you had a bully, when you left school, you never had to deal with the bully. With social media, the bully never leaves the house. It's in your home with you. And I think that's a great example for people who want to protect their children, especially 14 and under, about just the ills that social media can cause. And you don't always know what your kids are doing on that phone. I know most parents are doing much better with monitoring, and you can limit the social media time and even internet time, but it's still very hard.
So I wanted to ask you, Griff, the First Lady, Casey DeSantis, was here Thursday, and I saw that you got to meet with her, and she was here pushing a new resiliency Florida, which it says it's first in the nation initiative focused on reframing mental health education to focus on building resiliency skills, grit, perseverance, gratitude, personal responsibility, decision-making, mentorship, self-awareness, problem-solving, empathy, citizenship, and honesty. So what were your takeaways from her visit here at Mosley High School?
Yeah, she's fascinating. She's really like you say, putting parents in charge, empowering the family. And so this resiliency project, I think she's trying, I think there's a rebranding of this. We all talked about the mental health, especially here in our part of the world after Hurricane Michael, right? It went to the mental health struggles of our children. And then after COVID, it just times 10 the mental health issues. And so now they're trying to build this program that just talks about the resiliency of, look, life is not easy. There are going to be struggles, but here at the end of the day, these are some of the things, these challenges that build you, the character. And so they're having all these, she brought down with her the other day, the secretary of the Florida Lottery, John Davis, played football at Florida State, was recruited by Notre Dame, didn't get recruited to go play in the pros, tried to go to the Canadian Football League and failed, just failure. But just the lessons he was taught while being raised in a single home in Pahokee, Florida, just he didn't have it easy. And then you have Senator, Corey Simon over here, who's got the same stories. These guys they make you want to challenge yourself, and they're building that into the program while at the same time you're bringing parents and grandparents into the schools and training them how to do this, and there's money to pay them. And so hopefully you'll bring these families back into the educational component of their kids now as we know, we have to, and I think we got a great superintendent. I think we have to improve our education here in Bay County to get it to a level where, top 10 in the state.
So, Griff, I made the mistake of watching the Florida Channel debate on the don't get too close to the police bill.
He's been on Dayquil with his illness.
Were you trapped in a jail cell or something?
I don't know why I was intrigued. I guess because I was listening to the debate and I was trying to understand. The Democrats were pretty much easy to understand, but it was mainly 4 or 5 black Democrat women, and they were just against this thing every which way to sunset.
There are 2 or 3 in particular that speak on every issue. Right? They just don't like anything. And they are, and in reality, I don't think they're very popular amongst their own party members. I know in particular a couple are not, because after October 7th, and we had our special session on funding for Jewish day schools and things like that for security measures, the solidarity amongst the Jewish delegation, which is very strong in Tallahassee, is they bond together, and they were very, very tight. And obviously we were all surrounding them. Well, there's a couple in their party that were not. And just like the Congress, there's a couple. And I will tell you that caucus is a big thing up there. And when you do something like that, you show who you are, and those people they'll find somebody to run against you, and they'll primary you. And if I'm not mistaken, I think one of those 2 is being primaried. And you just can't act like that. But there are a few that just love to speak on every issue. I remember arguing my first session. We were debating over the SNAP cards, let's call it the free meal cards or whatever that the government hands out. And we were debating on whether to take soda or soft drinks off the ability for them to buy them, because they were just going into convenience stores and buying, $4 drinks. And we debated for 2 hours, I think, on the ability for them to go buy soft drinks on that. I remember thinking, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, what are we really? This is a thing. But it is the process, and it's very calculated. And thankfully, we're in the supermajority, because we can control the debate as best we can. But we do give them the opportunity to argue.
And I will agree. Everybody had a chance to have their say. I think that was Representative Fine was the one running that bill, if I remember right. And he was almost contemptuous of some of the some of the questions.
Representative Fine is he's running for Senate. Representative Fine, Randy Fine, is one of the smartest, if not the most gifted speaker in the Florida House. His debate skills are unbelievable. However, Randy Senator Fine, soon to be Senator Fine, Randy has a really good way of making people angry at him when he's debating. And so they get mad at Randy.
That was pretty evident, you know.
Randy relishes it. Randy's a very good guy and a very good. You can see the
contempt in his comments.
Yeah, and especially those that spoke against after the Jewish stuff. There's one or two in particular that I was just speaking about that Randy doesn't care if he makes them mad, and I think he personally kind of enjoys it sometimes. And but Randy is a very gifted speaker. Randy is a very passionate guy. Randy is a guy who is doing everything for the right reasons, I believe. And Randy is going to do it his way. And,
So, Griff,
Randy will be a good senator.
Reflecting back, John and I we're such pro-lifers, and the Second Amendment we're always fighting for. What were your feelings on that after this session? Florida kind of leads the way in a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and it looks like we're all going to get a vote on it in November. I'm not so sure. I hadn't read the language in its entirety, but I think the Second Amendment, I'm sorry. We're going to have to vote in November on abortion and marijuana, which are going to be the two largest issues we're going to hear about in the future session. This last session, the House ran the gun control bill where you could purchase a long gun if you were 18. And it didn't have its Senate counterpart. The president had spoken prior to us even hearing it that they were not going to entertain it. But we did it, because I think the House thought it was right.
Yay. That's awesome.
I think we're just maybe a little bit more conservative body right now. The Senate is different. I mean, there's only 40 and it's small. If you walk around the Senate, you walked around the House, Veronica, and you saw the bumblebee, it's like a beehive is what I call it, right? There's just people everywhere. We're bumping off each other, and then you go to the other side, and it's what I call like a library or a mausoleum. Quiet. There's very few people, and everybody's, because there's so few. But there's a lot of us, and so I think we operate a little differently. And we have a very, very conservative House. I mean, I have 30 Republican members in my class, and I have some members that are. Barney Jacques, who's a first-generation, American from Haiti, who is as conservative as you've ever seen. Danny Alvarez. We've got Brad Yeager, Adam Anderson, myself, Doc Rudman, Shane Abbott. We've got people they're just not going to bend. We're just who we are, and we're just going to stick together and do our thing.
And what's the legislation on the marijuana? Is that to legalize it in Florida this fall?
Yeah, that's what it's going on the ballot in November.
Okay.
That
I hope that's no. Please no. Okay.
It's got to get 60%. It's got to get 60% for the voters to approve it. I don't know.
Okay.
I saw a poll yesterday that it was below that, which let's just hope it sticks that way. I think if the medical part's just working fine, I guess let's just leave that alone. The abortion issue, I think what it's going to do is bring up the issue of where the timeline falls. I think it's going to leave it up to the states probably to dictate where it goes. Is it 15 weeks? Is it not at all? Is it? I don't know. Yeah.
Well, so we appreciate you fighting that.
That South Florida issue is going to be that South Florida issue will dominate that vote, I imagine, just south of Orlando.
Right.
So Griff, it's good to see that Bay County's finally getting back to what I'll call sort of normal. We've heard the Gulf Coast Air Show is going to be in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's great.
And then this coming week, there's a new fixed-based operator opening up at the airport, Southern Sky Aviation.
Yeah.
And I stopped by there. I think if I remember right, the general manager told me they spent $34 million on that facility, and I mean, it is first class, first class.
And he's coming on next week. I can't wait to talk to him about that.
That's going to, I mean, the amount of, I don't think people understand the amount of jets that fly in here during the summer.
A lot.
Just to come to our Gulf Coast, and and now with all the issues going on in Walton County with access to the beach and things like that, I just think it paints a better picture over here for us for tourism for the future.
Yeah, I kind of equated our jet traffic here. I used to go skiing in Aspen at Christmas time, and you go to Aspen Airport. There's jets everywhere, and our airport looks like that. It really does on some of the holiday weekends. There's so many jets out there.
It really does. Yeah, no, it's like probably like the Masters tournament, right, where the jets fly in for the weekend and then they fly out. But you could drive out to those, especially with that new one coming in. It's going to put pressure on the other guy who's been here. It makes everybody work harder, and they'll be out there aggressively selling jet fuel and parking planes. That's good for all of us here.
So Griff, to wrap it up, we love having you back because you're part of the Veronica Live family here. What do you want to tell the world? Your takeaways and the future of the next legislative session.
Wow. Well. Yeah, and the thing is, it's not till March. It's a long time from now. We've got a lot of work to do over the summer. First off, my office is always open, third floor of the Government Center, 840 West 11th Street. If anybody ever needs anything, they can always reach out to Shanta and Ashton there. They can help, and we can set up meetings and put you in contact with the people if we can help at all. But I would just say that the future of Florida is bright. We are in the greatest state. We have really, really good leadership, aside from sausage making, which maybe there's some sense to all this, but it is very.
I'm still scared.
It makes you want to bang your head against the table. But at the end of the day, we run a balanced budget. Our budget projections are great. We have tons of reserves. The governor is good to us and our part of the world, always has been. I think we're going to have great years ahead with Speaker Perez as the next speaker. And Matt, it's just time to go to work. It's if there's things that we can do at the state that can benefit the people of Bay County or District 6 or even the state as a whole, come see me. Let's talk. I'm game and open. There's going to be a lot of conversation about insurance, obviously, in the next session there. That's I saw Patronus the other day, as you did, Veronica, and he mentioned that there's a company actually going for a rate reduction right now. So let's hope that's the first start of that slippery slope that we all talk about, and everybody will start asking for rate reductions, and then we can see some progress in the next few years with insurance. And I think you'll continue to see that push on through, as well as a lot of discussion on how to figure out the crisis of citizens and what do we do with citizens insurance.
Well, wonderful. And I thank you, too, because we did have a billionaire come into our area, and I ran the ceremony for the $50 million. He built this beautiful condos for people here.
Very
so
nice.
Thanks for coming out to that. And that shows our growth, too, in Florida. $50 million in our little backyard. But thanks, and we'll have you back. And we've been talking with Representative Griff Griffitts, and we'll be right back on Veronica Live.